Hi, I'm Rhys Lawton, and this is MainScream Media, watching the mainstream news so you don't have to. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So let's whistle for that far-right dog and act all surprised when it comes. You can't even make a joke these days without getting arrested. OK, not arrested. Cancelled. OK, not cancelled. Paid loads of money for saying horrible stuff. So who's been arrested? I mean, cancelled. I mean, paid this week. Well, judging by the mainstream media coverage, it's Jimmy Carr! Cancelled! Yes, Jimmy Carr, famous for his dark comedy, surprised everyone by doing some dark comedy. OK, just some really dark shit. Making light of the Holocaust. Comedy gold. But Rhys, this week it was much worse. Actually, no. The joke you're thinking of has been out there for ages. And just as a warning, to call it a joke is pushing it. If you like comedy, look away now.
When people talk about the Holocaust, they talk about the tragedy and horror of 6 million Jewish lives being lost to the Nazi war machine. But they never mention the thousands of gypsies that were killed by the Nazis. No one ever wants to talk about that because no one ever wants to talk about the positives.
All very shocking. So he's been cancelled, hasn't he? Nope, he hasn't. That Netflix special, His Dark Material, is still on the platform. Go and watch it if you like that kind of thing. Jimmy's pretty cross himself. You can't joke about anything, says he. Well, you can, mate. In a way, you've just proved it. But just because we can doesn't mean we should. Has Jurassic Park taught us nothing? Don't worry, you've got friends in high places. Justice Secretary Heinrich Himmler, Culture Minister Joseph Goebbels, and the editor of The Spectator. I mean his comedy mates, of course. This is how it works. The likes of amateur knobhead Lawrence Fox or professional knobhead Joe Rogan get support from the right-leaning outlets when they say something awful. While liberal types like Carr can usually rely on their lefty chums rallying round, like when he got the BBC to say sorry for another joke about the traveller community. Look, there's the very funny Victoria Corrin. Sorry, no, the daughter of the very funny Alan Corrin and sister of the creepy Giles. She's trying to separate Carr the performer from Carr the man. Had lots of success doing that for her brother. But wait, something weird is going on. Jimmy's other mates are deserting him. Comedian David Baddiel is very cross. It's indefensible, isn't it? Saying that kind of stuff about travellers? As bad as using a derogatory slur yourself? Or perhaps as bad as, I don't know, blacking up for a laugh, David? Different times, weren't they? The 90s. You'd think Jimmy could rely on Baddiel, though, given how he reacted to something much more recent, like this.
Sieg Heil. Sieg Heil. Sieg Heil. Who's a good wee Nazi?
God, how offensive, a pug doing a Nazi salute. No, bizarrely, the liberal media, including old David Baddiel, all right behind right-winger Count Dankula. Not his real name, obviously. To Mr. and Mrs. Dankula, a son, Count. It's actually Scottish YouTuber Mark Meacham, who was convicted of being grossly offensive under the Communications Act. What a scandal they all raged, even though he's not even a comedian. Or funny, bit like Jimmy Carr. The line then was, it's not about the joke. Comedy's subjective. They'll defend to the death his right to say it. Or maybe, just maybe, they even like it.
It's definitely funny that a pug does a Nazi salute.
OK, but Jimmy then. David, have you fallen into the I don't find it funny, therefore it's wrong trap? What's changed? Well, in the pug's case, there was a bit of separation. With Carr, it's all a bit too close. Everyone, including David, is trying desperately not to get cancelled. Not everyone's got streaming giant Netflix in their corner. But in their haste to condemn their mate, they're missing other key angles to this whole shitstorm. The first seems to be Netflix's latest marketing strategy. Hot on the heels of Dave Chappelle's transphobic special, it's decided the free publicity is worth the massive backlash. Even if another load of employees quit in protest. Hey, you've seen Squid Game, no one's irreplaceable. Except the guys at the top, like Dave and Jimmy. But another weird thing is why the media's just noticed this so-called joke. It's been kicking around since last year. Which feeds into the third angle. Why the right-leaning media's piling in. The guys telling us last month that all this woke cancel culture was the enemy. All truly Orwellian, 1984 stuff. At least it would be if they weren't trying to get that cancelled too. Why isn't Jimmy Carr some kind of cause celeb for them? The next J.K. Rowling? Oh, sorry, threw up in my mouth a bit. Well, the answer to both those things might be in the timing. It's all very suspect. because it's the very week Tories are taking action. Quite remarkably, this clip of Carr was dug up just in time for a new online safety bill from the ubiquitous Nadine Dorries. So, of course, that's why the right-leaning press is falling into line. Except...
Is that the type of material that this bill would be able to target?
So no, because those shocking comments were made by Jimmy Carr on Netflix, I believe over a year ago, actually. And those, so it doesn't. But what I would say is that another bill that we have to come through is a media bill, which we are looking at including those video on demand streaming organisations such as Netflix.
That's a no, but we might do something soon. But I wonder who unearthed it. Anyway, what luck! Something to grab the headlines, bit of celebrity stardust for our plan to ban this kind of sick filth. For now, Health Secretary Sajid Javid called on the public to cancel Carr themselves. I think he means don't watch it. Except, aren't you the party of free speech? War on the woke brigade, that kind of thing?
Sometimes I think we just need to kind of like tone down the condemnation and the judgment. And that's what's important to protecting freedom of speech.
To be fair to her, in a way she isn't to others, she did say sometimes. And other times, they just love getting tough on the traveller community. Not just dark jokes like Carr, a proper kicking. All wrapped up in the lovely police crime and sentencing bill, banning travellers from travelling, but also banning them from stopping. All that dehumanising stuff that leads to other things, like the Holocaust. The irony of all this wasn't lost on lefty comedian David Schneider, who had a dig, then realised he'd had a pop at the Travellers himself back in 2010. Whoops, said he, need to tidy up his own social media a tad, because deleting tweets always makes things better. But hey, at least he's making the effort. Unlike, say, those who'll happily have a go at the wokies trying to cancel free speech, then defend some really horrific stuff, then threaten to ban it themselves when it suits the agenda. It was the week Boris Johnson finally got things back on track. And it worked too, for a few seconds. Cheers, Boris, get the bubbly open. Or maybe not. Yes, a new photo of Partygate quiz night that the press pounced on. Looked quite a lot like the old one. New bottle of champers, though. Good enough for Met Chief Cressida Dick, battling to save her job, who decided it was now time to take another look at the one party her guys decided wasn't a problem. Very successful.
It is quite clear that the Mayor no longer has sufficient confidence in my leadership of the Metropolitan Police Service for me to continue as Commissioner. He has left me no choice but to step aside.
She's not going to leave immediately, is she?
Yo, bruv, live TV, Sky News.
No, that's right. Dame Cressida Dick has said that she will stay on for the next couple of weeks. She will do that because she has offered... OK, come on.
We're going to leave Kate there.
Might be quite a few fines on the way for those partygoers too. Quick, PM, need something else.
And just like that, Boris Johnson announces England could be just 2 weeks away from ending all COVID restrictions. Is this about science or politics?
Don't tell me, I know this one. Is it science? No, of course it isn't. Scientists, eh? What do they know? Just get all the important hacks on side. Have a right go at the boffins.
Some people hate you because they say you're always too gloomy, and quite often you're wrong.
OK, fair enough.
In your place. Did it all work? Everyone nicely distracted? A bit. The Loyal Mail and Express followed it all. Well done, chaps. But most of the rest couldn't resist the latest Partygate twist. One man had had enough. The man at the centre of all kinds of sleaze, hypocrisy and the death of public trust. No, not Boris, of course. This guy.
Day after day, the public was asked to believe the unbelievable. Ministers were sent out to defend the indefensible.
Yes, if anyone knows anything about defending the indefensible, it's the last guy who destroyed the Tory party, Sir John Major. But it's been a few years, so the media treats him like some kind of oracle. Don't worry, Boris, it'll all work out fine in the end. So, what have you got to say for yourself?
This is a very dangerous moment.
Sure is, mate. Taking a day trip to Brussels at a time like this? But dicking around playing war games tied nicely into his earlier quip about his domestic outlook. You'll have to get the tanks to drag me out! Sounded a bit fascist, but then he does love the odd authoritarian analogy. Yes, from the guy who said he'd lie down in front of the bulldozers at Heathrow, then didn't, and who said he'd be hit by a water cannon to show how safe they are, and then wasn't. Anyway, the new plan. The media called it the Great Reset. Sounds brilliant, except that also sounds a bit fascist, bit far right, bit, you know, conspiracy theory. Plays very well with those who think our overlords are lizards, or there's some kind of VIP paedophile ring that only Donald Trump can defeat, or that COVID's all a cover for New Order. I think that should be New World Order. Maybe it's their early stuff. Something like that. What I do know is that having a far-right trope as the buzzword for your new agenda is a bit odd. Well, I'd say odd. Understandable when last week's news was dominated by a PM who dug up another one. Yes, that the Labour leader failed to prosecute notorious paedophile Sir Jimmy Savile. Sir Keir Starmer was head of the CPS when it didn't happen, but it's not quite the same, is it? And when you've got Boris Johnson blowing a dog whistle like that, it's hardly a surprise when the crazies take it as some kind of cue to have a go at Starmer too. It's not great, is it? But Boris's fault? The mainstream channels thought so.
Boris Johnson is called upon once again to withdraw a false accusation he made against Keir Starmer. Traitor! It follows tonight's incident at Westminster when Sir Keir was harassed by a group of protesters.
The Labour leader is mobbed by protesters repeating the PM's slurs about Jimmy Savile.
The political temperature hits red again. Police rescue Sir Keir Starmer from a mob shouting slurs about paedophiles. Labour MPs claim they were incited by Boris Johnson.
Yes, it's pretty clear who started it. Lots of front pages. Boris Johnson really got them riled up. Or did he? What the mainstream neglected to mention was that those protesters are usually around Westminster somewhere, usually talking about COVID, usually with Piers Corbyn. That was the line seized on by Downing Street too.
They were mostly talking about Julian Assange, they were talking about COVID, they were talking about the general conduct of the opposition. They did mention Jimmy Savile as well, but mostly it was about Julian Assange.
Yes, remember that bloke we've kept locked up in a maximum security prison for nearly 2 years? Mostly his fault. But to say it wasn't anything to do with Boris's comments is also stretching it a bit. The Tory cheerleaders did their best. Just anti-vaxxers, aren't they? Savile what? Look over there. Look, the real story is about Prince Charles living in his own house. Or maybe something about the Queen's horses. Rain. You see what they did? Need someone to bat for the PM, though. Who's going to defend this Starmer-Savile shitstorm?
I wouldn't have said it.
Aren't you clever? Someone not obviously on manoeuvres, though. Maybe that loyal culture secretary. She was game last weekend.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister recently, in the last 24 hours?
Why? Why are you asking me that question?
I'd like to know.
Not as good as I remember. Doesn't she get things a bit wrong?
We had 10 years of the internet.
Bless her, she tries. She's off checking her MySpace. Try someone else. What about the old guard? Some respected Tory grandee. Yes, that bloke Peter Lilly, if he's not dead yet. Last seen,
I've got a little list of benefit offenders who I'll soon be rooting out and who never would be missed. They never would be missed.
I can't imagine how they got called the Nazi Party. Sorry, I mean the Nasty Party. Go on then, if you got no one else.
Both sides should probably apologise.
Yeah, Keir, say sorry. There was a great reset for the cabinet too. Would Boris sack that disloyal sneak next door? Well, no. Just a so-called he-shuffle. Moved the blokes about a bit. And less a shuffle, more a revolving door. Leader of the Commons, Jacob Rees-Mogg, became Minister for Brexit Opportunities and Government Efficiency. I think they must be trolling him. You have a look for that stuff, mate. Let us know what you find. He even took out an ad in The Sun. Write in, chaps. Tell me about any EU red tape you spot. One opportunity for him I've spotted, but hardly an efficiency for us, is the extra £37,000 he'll be entitled to in the new job for a millionaire during a cost of living crisis. Anyway, under fire Chief Whip Mark Spencer, blackmail and threats, remember, got Mogg's old job. And Chris Heaton-Harris replaces him. You remember, loved Brexit so much, he wrote to all the unis asking what they were teaching about it and demanded all the teachers' names. McCarthyist what? Another one with a little list. And that was about it. The great policy reset was just as underwhelming. This was the stuff they really wanted the headlines to be about. Fire up the NHS, clear the backlog, those never-ending waiting lists.
Unfortunately, that number is going to keep going up.
That's gone a bit wrong already. The other way round, surely. That number is going to keep going down. Now I'm with you. Where's the cash for it?
I was reading in my Telegraph newspaper this morning that the NHS backlog plan is not coming today because you've hit a roadblock with the Treasury.
Well, it's not coming today because we had a roadblock with Omicron.
Yes, Omicron. Remember that? That's what we'll blame. We'll get this all sorted by, 2024.
The government said it was going to come up with a plan, and now it hasn't.
Nothing gets past you, except Jimmy Savile. What's going on inside number 10? Lots of comings and goings, mostly goings with that bonfire of the vanities. Yes, losing a director of communications, a chief of staff, a private secretary, the head of your policy unit, or a special advisor, that's a misfortune. Lose all of those within 48 hours, and to quote Oscar Wilde, that looks like a massive clusterfuck. Yeah, a bit sweary was old Oscar. Might be okay, though. All part of a secret plan. So secret, we've only just thought of it. Get Peston to get the line out there.
This is his attempt to stop himself being forced out by his MPs.
Well done, Robert. It's the PM taking decisive action. Most of those guys were irreparably tarnished by Partygate. They had to go. Oh, unlike Boris, of course. Irreparably tarnished by Partygate, sure, but we've got to wait for the police investigation in his case. So who's still there behind the door of number 10? Glad you asked. Most people want to know, including those in there. Lots of questions from them. Am I still working there? Did I get fired? Maybe I resigned. I'll check the papers to find out. Top of the list, Boris Johnson. He's pretty sure he's still there. He might check again in a bit. You have to feel for him. You do. Come on. OK, don't then. But it's not for want of trying. Look, he's just had the place done up, spent a fortune of our cash. It'd be crazy to leave now. Who else? At time of recording, obviously. Well, brand spanking new Director of Communications, Guito Harry. Ex-BBC guy, hates Brexit. Hey, chaps, who vetted him? Is he on message? Well, straight out the blocks, he gave an interview saying Bojo wasn't a complete clown. I don't want to tell you your job, mate, but all anyone will focus on is the complete clown bit. Did it myself. And let's face it, the word complete is doing some heavy lifting there. How was his first day at big school?
One of the newbies, though, has turned up for work this morning.
Good start. And great scoop, Chris. I see you made it in too. Nice job. At least he didn't go to the wrong building or shit his pants on the way in. Guito, I mean. Chris Mason always looks like that.
Guito Harry, former advisor to the Prime Minister when he was Mayor of London, rolling up in Downing Street. Something of a shout. I wonder if we can hear the question that was shouted in his direction.
What's the first thing you're going to do today?
Give healthy snacks and mineral water.
Wonderful insight. Amazed Mason ruled himself out of the race to replace Laura Kuenssberg. You'd barely notice the difference. Then it all quickly fell apart when Guito himself revealed Bojo sang him a few bars of Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive. Hopefully not the bit about walking out the door and not being welcome anymore. Are they both taking this seriously? Someone has checked Guito out, right? No skeletons? Always been a fan of Bojo?
These are the people who made the laws and prescribed those laws to the rest of us,
other
and
people
then
were
did not
fined.
live by them.
Other people were fined because they didn't obey these laws.
Good luck walking that back. Don't think even he expects to be around long term. Only took 6 months leave from his PR job. Why? Well, he got a bit burnt by Free Speech Zone GB News. Sacked early on for exercising his freedom to take the knee. Not quite the freedom that lot had in mind. You might not remember Guito also lobbying Bojo to keep 5G in the hands of the Chinese. If not, Robert Peston will remind us. And Dom Cummings will coin a catchy nickname. Huawei Harry. That's him. The alliteration works better written down. Not that Dom can read it. Go for a drive, mate. And Robert, I'm surprised at you. You're normally so on message. Have you had your head turned by the man who would be king?
Can I turn next to Robert Peston for my TV? Oh, shit. Hello? Afternoon, Robert.
Yes, electric chemistry. You could cut the tension with a spoon. So, who else is in the door? Well, Bojo's hired new Chief of Staff Steve Barclay. Bit odd to call him new or even a hire when he already works there. Brexiteer, though, better start. Tough, ruthless, gets things done, according to his fans in the media. So good at getting things done, he was in charge of Brexit for about 5 minutes and only bloody well got it done. That's how he tells it, anyway. Others say the job just became a bit redundant when we left the EU, but that's still a win, right? And Brexit's such a success. Quite a bit on his plate. No, not the chief of staff bit, though that'll be a nightmare, naturally. At one point, he had 2 other jobs. Minister for the Cabinet Office. They took that off him. Hard to be the new broom when you're also the guy who's been across all this mess since last September. And Steve's still MP for North East Cambridgeshire. But can't imagine that takes up much of his time. Enough of the new guys. Who's there to greet them? Who remains after the epic cull? Well, a crack team of the core Bojo cheerleaders. Like, well, Carrie Johnson's still there. You remember? Former Tory press officer. I think she's still loyal to Bojo.
Carrie is a really strong supporter of the Prime Minister.
Be odd if she wasn't. I think she's married to him. Got to check that. Hard to quit the role, and we'll assume he won't sack her. Although it's never stopped him before. Poor Carrie, said the Mail. Vicious briefing wars. Her enemies are out to get her. They say she's got too much power. Look at all the awful stories. Oh, you haven't seen them? Here's a reminder. She uses Bojo's phone. She demanded a taxpayer-funded iPad. Thanks, the Mail. Too kind. And where are those stories coming from? Well, the Mail. Again. It's serialising another of Lord Ashcroft's books. First Lady. Remember, he did the one about David Cameron and his porcine pals? Got turned into a cartoon and a theme park.
Peppa Pig World is very much my kind of place.
Focus, mate. We're worried about Carrie. Get someone to defend her.
It's sexist. I mean, it's why... First of all, I think the partners of politicians should be off limits.
Yes, Sarge, they should. Except we're forgetting Carrie's power struggle with eye-test maverick and former chief aide turned chief nemesis, Dominic Cummings. Well, you are. I remember it well. He's still out to get them both. Princess Nut Carrie's a cracker's wrong'un. Boris is a babbling fuckwit. Dom really does have a lovely way with words. But it's working. Another week, another ally of Carrie's gone. This time, the famous Henry Newman. Quick, someone Google him. I think 19th century theologian, leader of the Oxford movement. Can't be right. That's him, Henry Newman, number 10 special advisor, close friend of Carrie, accused of being the chatty rat behind the Lockdown 2 leak. He's back to work with old boss Michael Gove, another suspected chatty rat. They'll get stuck into levelling up when they've decided what it is. Perhaps this is Carrie trying desperately to prove that she's not in charge. But from this point, get the red string out. Lots of dodgy connections coming. Another old ally of Gove's is still in Downing Street. Deputy Chief of Staff Simone Finn. Also in the House of Lords. Nice. Used to date Michael Gove. Not so nice.
Whatever charisma is, I don't have it.
Yes, him again. Both Henry and Simone, according to Tim Shipman at the Sunday Times, were behind the plot to have Gove stab Boris in the back in 2016, putting Theresa May in number 10. They only made nice with Boris and switched sides thanks to Carrie. Could they be back behind Govey at any minute? And then, of course, there's Rishi Sunak, just next door. Plenty of his allies around too. Remember Munira Mirza, former director of Number 10's policy unit? Of course you do, only quit last week. She's a close mate of Sunak, and her other half is still in Number 10 too. Dougie Smith, some kind of fixer. No one's really sure what he does, except that he used to organise swingers parties and worked as an aide to David Cameron. No connection between them. Hope he's on side for Boris's sake, because Sunak's prints are all over this. Mirza's departure was broken by another close mate of his, Spectator political editor James Forsyth. He went to Winchester with Rishi. The school, not a day trip. Lovely cathedral. And Forsyth's married to Allegra Stratton. They're godparents to Rishi's kids. She also used to be his director of comms before her ill-fated stint with Boris. Came up with Eat Out to Help Out, which got us all back in the pub spreading COVID. Probably the second worst thing she did.
His fictional party was a business meeting. And it was not socially distanced.
Oh, don't forget old Allegra was also ITV political editor Robert Peston's co-host. Last seen pouring cold sick on Boris's new guy, Guito Harry. And Allegra's close mates with Dom Cummings. Yes, him again, whose wife Mary works at the Specky with James. That's enough names. At this point, your string should look like this. Thank God Boris does have a few of his own guys left. We've got director of biscuits and head of cuddles, Dylan the dog. Not long in the game, big Johnson fan, loyal, was rumoured to be on the way out for pissing everywhere. Used his top spinning skills to make that one go away. Doesn't always see eye to eye with Chief Mouser Larry the cat. Could be due a bust-up. Larry served under many PMs, so questionable loyalty unless you've got a red ball of string. Or you're bringing him snacks. Nice one, Guito. Lots of catnip and prawns, please. Will any of this nonsense convince Tory MPs Boris is the guy? Well, of that lot, only Dylan and Larry are universally loved. Some think the rebels are within single figures of those 54 letters of no confidence. Fortunately for Bojo, some don't.
I can promise you that the vast, vast majority of those MPs, 97% of them, will be out in their constituencies today who are delivering on the promises that they made to their constituents and Boris Johnson has made to them.
Yes, only 3% are rebelling. That's around 10. Fewer than the number who've actually called for him to go publicly. But that's just detail. Everyone loves him. You know clickbait? Yeah, you see a thing on social media, it suckers you in, takes you to something that's got fuck all to do with anything, certainly not what you were promised by the first click. Think some outlets are above it? Think again. Hello, new fans. Now, think about our chat about Havana syndrome, episode 9. Go check it. I'll wait. Ah, right. So, you remember that weird weapon that only goes after US spies? Could be microwaves, could be Russians, could be the Chinese or the Cubans. Basically, whoever we don't like at the moment. Or maybe it's crickets chirping, or mozzies, or even just like nothing at all, really. They need to get out more. Well, it's all solved. The BBC says so. US intelligence experts pinpoint the cause. There's the news right there. Quick, get on the BBC website. Not quite pinpointed, maybe caused by directed energy. Some US intelligence guys looked at a range of scenarios, weirdly not including crickets, bullshit or mindfuck, and found pulsed electromagnetic energy plausibly explains the core characteristics. Well, yes, but plausible to whom? If it's plausible to guys looking for a weapon that might not exist and really want it to be the Russians, then forgive me if I want a bit more than plausible. Any proof? Sorry, mate, that's all classified. Really? Anyway, here's the rest of the papers jumping on it too, but with a little less finality than the BBC. May, could. Almost like they're as wary of the US and the BBC as, well, me. The Winter Olympics is shit, isn't it? Dodgy, corrupt, totalitarian, loads of cheating. Must explain the medals drought. Bloody French. Sorry, bloody Chinese. Force of habit. Anyway, it's all very controlled. Or maybe amateur. Yes, very silly. I mean, evil. At least, that's the impression you'd get from the mainstream media. Done a great job preconditioning us to hate it. Don't mix sport with politics? Fuck that!
The Winter Olympics kick off in Beijing, despite concerns about human rights and freedom of speech.
It wasn't hard for Western governments to get the media on side. China, right? The baddies, always doing something sneaky. Look, says Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, what you'd get if you ordered Margaret Thatcher on Wish. They're even siding with the Argies over the Malvinas. I mean, the Falkland Islands. Actually, Liz, that's been their position since, well, the 1980s. Oh, you just found out? Let us know how you get on in Moscow. Red Square's looking lovely. Nice hat. You tell that President Gorbachev what's what.
I'm not going to go into the wheres and why-fors.
Good. That could get confusing, couldn't it? Anyway, the Chinese. Let's shaft them. Not us, of course. They'd just laugh. I mean America.
The White House just announced a diplomatic boycott of the upcoming Winter Games in China.
Yes, a diplomatic boycott. Is that a boycott? Well, glad you asked. Joe Biden did too. No, of course I'm with it, said Joe. Take me through it one more time. It's a boycott, but one where everyone's really nice about it. No hard feelings, still friends, yeah? Shame for the athletes, of course. Spent years training for this one chance.
The committee says the move also makes it clear athlete participation is beyond politics.
Oh, wait, they can go? Yes, A diplomatic boycott is where all the dignitaries, officials and other freeloaders, mostly Prince Andrew, don't get their air miles. Great news for the climate. Result, right? Maybe everyone should do that.
This is an opportunity for the Biden administration to finally show that they are capable of a bold move that a lot of Americans, quite frankly, have been waiting to see since Joe Biden took office.
Yes, it's Joe looking tough. Might take the heat off all the domestic fuck-ups too. Not quite right, Fox News. The story is human rights. Stick to it.
The PRC's egregious human rights abuses and atrocities in Xinjiang.
Yes, human rights. Definitely nothing to do with the trade wars. Or maybe that tennis player we said had disappeared but now seems to be okay. She says she's fine, doesn't she?
And she said that she never disappeared. She'd been living a normal life throughout this period. So this is another media appearance from Peng Shuai. We've seen more and more ever since she did go missing.
Yeah, why listen to her? Kind of ruins the narrative. Look, of course there are long-standing rows about human rights. But the timing? Joe, nothing's changed. You could have done this much earlier, like a year earlier. Oh, I see. He's just seen all the ads on the telly about it. Wants to watch the ice hockey. Leave him alone now. The US was a bit of an outlier for a few minutes. Yes, we quickly followed them, along with the Aussies, Canadians and a few others.
Why have they decided to stay away?
Well, because of allegations of human rights abuses. That's why.
Says a government spokesperson. I mean the BBC's China correspondent. Yes, we'll have a piece of that too, said Boris. Bit of bother here for me, nice dead cat. I mean, real concerns about animal rights. Sorry, human rights. Yes, piss off the Chinese, but don't actually do anything that might affect the games. Bit of a unique problem for us Brits, though. The royalist papers aren't really on side, are they? What about the royal family? We love seeing them with the athletes. No, not Prince Andrew, the other ones. And Princess Anne's on the International Olympic Committee. Really odd if she's not there. Yes, this diplomatic snub that doesn't affect anything is starting to get a bit more awkward. Can the government tell the royals what to do? No. No, it can't. Maybe everyone cook up a story. I mean, agree a position. It's okay, Princess Anne will miss it, but due to COVID travel stuff, not human rights. Some did notice the convenient timing, but no one's going to call Anne a liar to her face, are they? Not when Boris Johnson's around anyway. Whew, diplomatic crisis averted. Anyway, let's crack on with the China bashing. Sorry, I mean reminding you how evil it all is. Start with that, all a bit strange and scary. Inside the weirdest games ever, raged the Telegraph. It felt like they tried to take out your brain. What Twilight Zone shit is this? Oh, they're testing people for COVID and were a bit rough about it. Also, having given the world the virus, it seems they will stop at nothing to ensure the world does not return the favour. Yes, a pretty, very xenophobic way of saying everyone's a bit cautious about the Rona. Can't tell if the Daily Star's outraged or excited by the controversial anal COVID tests there either. And from the Times, they're all wearing hazmat suits, or as we call it, PPE. But also, there are robot bartenders. There's the sneaky Chinese technology, probably spying on your drinks. And the ultimate insult, fake snow. Yes, fake snow. Millions of gallons of it. They're lying to us about how snowy it is. Are they? How do you know about it then? Well, it's dangerous. It's really icy. The athletes might slip over and do themselves a mischief. I think professional skiers might be okay, to be honest. It's been used for decades. Since the 80s, in fact. The Americans were the first with it. Whilst it's certainly energy intensive, not great for the climate, that's not China's doing. Okay, that's not exclusively China's doing. Any other scaremongering guff? It'll all be very biased, won't it? Will it? Is that how it all works? Every country has its own commentary team. We'll get the same usual pro-British bias, don't you worry. Not biased enough for the BBC, in fact. Next summer, it's letting a guy who works for UK Athletics do the commentary. I'm sure no one will notice. It's not like we ever win much on the track. Get back to China, the real enemy. Of course, the Chinese might try to spy on the athletes. Says MI6? No, says the British Olympic Committee. They're offering their guys free phones to use just in case the Chinese get up to their old tricks. Like hacking into all the dick pics and sending them to your mum? Nah, they don't have time. They'll just save the pictures for later. Maybe have a balanced debate? Or maybe not.
We've also heard, apparently, I don't know if you've spoken to athletes who've been told this, but that they're being told to use burner phones and take laptops that are not their own.
No, exactly. The lack of digital privacy is part of the problem.
Yeah, can't be too careful, even if it's a load of rubbish. And fans are banned too. Yes, cancel that trip to Beijing, Nan. The bloody Chinese are stopping you going. Look at how empty it is in the picture we took months ago. Funny that. Yeah, sorry, but that's the COVID again. Happens in loads of other countries, loads of other sports. Looks a bit like jumping at shadows now. One more. The authorities have threatened to punish athletes. Probably lock them up and beat them too. Because the Chinese are famously cruel, aren't they? Especially if you read the Daily Mail. What beasts! Especially to the cute animals. Look out for the bears on the downhill slalom and the dog skeleton bob. Is this still about the Olympics? Sorry, yes, the athletes might be punished if they get political. Well, sure, but that's in the hands of the organisers. Rule 50 in the Olympic Charter, no political protests. But the Chinese did issue a warning, didn't they? Didn't they?
US officials and human rights groups have warned competitors there could be consequences for talking about the events in Hong Kong and Xinjiang, for example.
Yes, warnings from the US, in fact. What kinds of stuff, though? Oh, you know, like when a South Korean footballer got the boot from London 2012 after holding up a banner basically telling Japan to get to fuck. But that was our guy, so it was fine to punish him. So the take home? When you're cheering for the Brits or maybe the Bears falling down the hill, just remember not to enjoy it too much.
Tonight we'll carve out a new chapter in sporting history, but a highly contentious one.
Yes, politics and sport. Don't forget to give them a stir. Remember when everything gave you cancer? Hundreds of things, can't avoid it. Food, drink, shampoo, cosmetics, not getting enough sleep, getting too much sleep, sitting down, going for a run, coffee, basically anything you can think of in your life, cancer. Now, the sequel. Heart attacks. It used to be so simple. Stay off the fags, avoid the fry-ups, get a bit of exercise. Even just a walk will do. Well, watch out on your daily stroll. Walking too slowly could be the sign of a massive heart attack on the way. Might be all right, but you never know. Better check the weather too. You know, that ever-changing thing that's outside your control. Especially if it's a bit cold outside. You might keel over from a massive heart attack. Don't even think about clearing the drive if we get a cold snap. What if you've got an underlying heart condition? Just leave the snow there. Might slip and break your neck, but your heart will be fine. Maybe don't go out. Sit inside. Who needs the outside anyway? Not for too long, might get cancer. But put the heating on to keep the cold out. Ward off the heart attack. Actually, no, don't do that. The energy bill might give you a heart attack instead. Think of the money! Starting to worry a bit more about the money now. Well, for God's sake, don't worry about it too much or you might give yourself a heart attack. Be calm. Be calm! Have a nice, relaxing drink. Of course. Drink responsibly. That's relaxing. A nice glass of fucking hell! Drinking within the guidelines will give me a heart attack now? I'm pretty sure getting plastered is bad, though. It is, right? Oh, well, too late. I'll just have a paracetamol and an energy drink to take the edge. No, I won't. That could all give me a heart attack, too. Something else. Stick the footy on the telly. Bit of R&R. Nope! Might get too excited. I'll just look at the score later on my phone. Or maybe that will make me too worried and trigger a heart attack. Just go to bed. Sleep. Yes, lovely. Nothing bad can happen until next month when the clocks go forward and loads of people die from a heart attack. Sweet dreams. Fuck's sake. Did you enjoy all the Jubilee celebrations? Yes, lovely, wasn't it? Long bank holiday weekend. Thanks, Mom. Long may you reign over us. I see Charlie got a touch of the COVID, but these things happen. It did all happen, didn't it? Feels a bit early in the year. Could have sworn it was June. Well, yes, it's both. In the grand tradition of the woman who weirdly has 2 birthdays, 2 celebrations too. We've just had the actual one. Her Madge celebrating 70 years on the throne.
I think I might just put a knife in it.
I think that's a really good idea.
See if it works. Oh, yes, it goes in beautifully.
Beautifully.
Somebody else can
finish it off.
Just pretend it's Boris Johnson, Ma'am. The one for us plebs is in June. Who's organising it?
Let's have a party. You can bring wine and cheese if you wish, but this is not a business meeting.
Bit of satire. Russ Kemp, is that really you? East End hard man? Yes, he's behind the big party in the summer. Turn up or he'll smash your face in. Don't touch the Queen. If you were thinking the media would do a quiet thing now and a big thing then, you're wrong. Massive coverage. But the actual news only gets you 2 headlines. Queen celebrates 70 years now. Plebs celebrate Queen's 70 years in the summer. So what other balls can we do about it? What about the amazing holiday? 4 days off! Very generous, Mom. Look, I don't like saying fake news, but I will say fake news because it is. 2 of those days are the weekend. We get one of those every week. The 3rd is a regular bank holiday that they moved from May, from my birthday. I'm fine with it. Yes, only the 4th extra day is new. Anyway, doff caps. Thank you, Mom. Very generous. Like she had anything to do with it. And that's not all. Yes, that popular guy Boris Johnson is behind calls to make that extra day happen every year. Maybe he could have a word with the PM. What else? Camilla's now Queen, isn't she? Is that what happens in a Platinum Jubilee? Seemed like it from the coverage. No, the Queen's just said Camilla will be Queen when she pops her clogs and Charlie takes over. Which seems pretty standard. Wife of King becomes Queen. They only pretended she might not before because everyone loved Diana so much and thought Phil had bumped her off. Harry and Meghan also got involved in the Jubilee nonsense, didn't they? Seriously, they wanted out. They went to America. Why won't they bloody shut up? So what did they say? Nothing. That's the story. They said nothing. Really, guys? You can't have it both ways. The papers, I mean, not Harry and Meg's. Anyway, the Queen's not interested in them, is she? Or her former favourite Prince Andrew, what with all the unpleasantness. Good on you, Mum. Not giving that lot your special Jubilee medal, are you? They must be properly fucked off. Or maybe you are giving them all a medal. Even evil Queen Meghan. Do you know, someone ought to check this out properly. Or maybe we'll just print the opposite of yesterday's news so we're right half the time. Move on. Perhaps just use the Jubilee as a peg for the Queen going about her usual business. Yes, wearing lipstick and her signature headscarf. Translation, nothing new here. Ahead of the 70th anniversary of blah, 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 blah. What else? Something to make the Queen relevant. Look, she's got a set of stamps. I mean, she is already on all of them, isn't she? Thanks, guys. You really shouldn't have. Actually, she is a philatelist. What? David Icke was right. No, I mean, she collects stamps, like many old people do. And unlike many old people, her collection's worth 10 million quid. Might need that. Palaces to heat, energy bills rocketing, or maybe we pay that too. Being cynical, stop that, Rhys. Leave that to the lefty papers. Yes, they might hate the royals, but copy's copy. Maybe use it as a peg to abolish the monarchy. Poor Liz, yes, time to face facts, Mum. Your family's done. Oh, when you die, of course, gotta be respectful. Get those MPs to have a chat about what happens next. Maybe President Boris, Queen Carrie. Sorry, nearly threw up there. To be honest, I'd rather Liz led a national conversation about scrapping that lot. From the Mirror, the Queen's been grilling organisers about the plan for June. No, she hasn't. This story's a rehash of the last Jubilee a decade ago, when Mr. Personality Gary Barlow revealed Liz asked him what time it finished and how long the kit took to pack away. Maybe she couldn't think of anything else to ask him. Were you in Take That? Yes. Is that amplifier heavy? Sticking with repackaging old guff, what about using the Jubilee to run the old palace bullying row? A guy involved in the planning might have thrown a tantrum and made some people cry. Or just use it all to bang the drum for the regular crap. From the Mail, special Jubilee nets to catch migrants, camps for asylum seekers named after Liz. No, it's that Big Ben bong bollocks again. Remember when Big Ben bonged for Brexit? No? Well, it did. So let's do that again! But this time, 70 of them. That won't annoy people. Least of all the Queen, who lives around the corner. Close the windows, Mum. Maybe till next year. We'll let you know when it's calmed down a bit. Keep the heat in, too. now we're properly into February, the news agenda should be hotting up a bit. But it isn't. So plenty more utter crap in the papers and on the telly. Feel like the silly bit after Christmas is a bit stretched now. Maybe it'll end just in time for the summer silly season. At 10, the Sun exclusive, a footballer's been kicking a cat. We saw it on TikTok. Yes, Kurt Zouma plays for West Ham. Truly awful human being. Not the sharpest tool either. Let his brother film it and stick it online. But there's more. He still played on Tuesday night. Everyone pile in. Yes, it's terrible. Call the RSPCA. Oh, you did? They've taken his cats. But front page news? No, it's not. At 9, a bloke at Barnard Castle in Durham used a forklift to flip a car. Nope, not Dominic Cummings testing his eyes again. This farmer didn't like the Vauxhall Corsa being parked on his land. Very dangerous, wasn't it? And to add insult to almost serious injury, a bloody jury let him off scot-free. They're a law unto themselves, aren't they? Remember when they let off those statue vandals who chucked our beloved racist Edward Colston into the harbour? Except this time, we've decided we like this farmer bloke, so this jury's okay by us. What a bunch of heroes. All right, then. At 8, the Six Nations is on. You know, the rugby. OK, happens every year. Need an angle. So let's catch up with England's scrum half, Kate Middleton, before her Six Nations clash with Princess Anne. That's not right. Oh, I see. Kate's patron of English rugger, Anne's the same with the Scots. How exciting. Any rugby? Yeah! You're out of position, Kate, and that's the least competitive line-out I've seen since... well, England, actually. Kate, I've got Eddie Jones for you. At 7, the energy crisis. Solved! Having trouble heating your home? Why not use a geothermal imaging camera? Find the coldest parts of your house. Simple. Well, because, as you point out yourselves, they cost $1,000. And that's before you start spending cash on warming up the cold bits. At 6, all newspapers. Someone took a tumble at the Brits.
Got my stuff, I'm at the door. Now I'm the one you're begging for.
Yeah, well done. Nice recovery. No! What a shock! Or, isn't she brave? What a brilliant response by, standing up and carrying on. At 5, things ain't what they used to be news. Massive outpouring of support for, CDs. No one uses them anymore. Music streaming, don't you know? And they don't have the allure of vinyl, poor things. Seems an odd thing to miss. Like getting emotional over floppy disks, the speaking clock, or white dog shit. CDs, though, they just worked, said The Guardian. I don't know what fantasy world you got yours in, but mine got scratched just taking them out of the box. Right load of shit. At 4, that weekly bit of Prince Andrew news that's not about the big stuff going on in his life. Yes, that royal weirdo once followed some woman to the loo and later gave her a head massage. Sorry, I read that differently in my head. Nothing wrong here. Apparently it was all fun and games. Just living the wild bachelor life. All according to a mutual friend. Can't imagine they're that close to Andy after this. Yeah, nice one, mate. Cheers. I look like a right idiot, even by my own standards. At 3, bit of xenophobia. OK, bit more xenophobia. We did the Chinese already. But this time it's the French, so we're fine. We were forced to quarantine in our freezing camper van at the mercy of French police, says a British family. What disgrace is this? A standoff with water cannons, snipers, Macron himself holding them hostage. No, the family didn't have the right COVID paperwork and had to isolate. Yeah, that's it. And the freezing van? Well, it was a camping trip. You should have thought of that before you went. Oh, did the police cut the power? No, they didn't. At 2, mobile phone bill nightmare. This bloke racked up nearly £200,000 on a 4-day trip to Turkey. Why? Foreign tariff? Brexit? No, he used a shitload of data. Nearly £200,000 worth, in fact, said the guys at BT. But we'll waive it because we're nice. And it's in the papers. The moral? Do what you like, then moan to the press. And at 1, the BBC's Unvaxxed Question Time. Anti-vaxxers take on the scientists. Sorry, vaccine skeptics take on the scientists. We're not just doing this for ratings. There's a serious point here. Somewhere. Here, a young chap with a philosophy degree tries to get the better of Imperial College's Professor Robin Shattuck. What happened? Exactly what you might expect.
We could talk about someone, say, Dr. Robert Malone, who is the man who invented the vaccine, who suggests that young people, for example,
No, I don't think he is the man who invented the vaccine. He was critical in
inventing mRNA vaccines.
Let's let Robin answer that, and then I'll come to some other people in the audience.
It's nonsense.
Yes, who'd have thought? Actually, that Malone guy they're talking about did do early work on mRNA tech. But wasn't it Chuck Norris who said a little learning is a dangerous thing? And what a brutal rinsing, said a paper that wouldn't know vaccine technology if it took its clothes off and flaunted its curves on page 3. And now, my scream of the week.
I've been doing this, guys, over the last few months, and it just came off today. Yeah, I'm a twisted fire starter, John.
So that's me, Rhys Lawton. And until next time, I will be watching the mainstream news so you don't have to. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm off to hit the reset button myself. Might stick it on snooze for a bit.